This past weekend, the U.S. House of Representatives approved more than $100 billion in additional funding for war and weaponry. A slight majority of Republicans voted against it. The vote among Democrats in favor was unanimous. $60 billion of the funds would go to Ukraine. The balance would be divided between Israel and Taiwan. For more on that, we go to Moscow to speak with analyst Mark Sleboda. Mark? More money for the war in Ukraine. It's going to change anything?
Don, I've been saying since late last autumn that this legislation was eventually going to be approved. There was no way that the U.S. political elite, with its eyes focused on geopolitics, was ever going to not continue to provide aid for the Kiev regime in Ukraine.
Let's not forget also with their hands in everybody's pocket already there, very difficult to extract that hand.
Yes. I still think there's an open question of what the frack the last 6 months were. When Speaker Johnson promised that, we heard again and again and again, not so much that he was against military aid for the Kiev regime in Ukraine, but that he put American border security first, and that there would be not a penny for Kiev until America secured its own borders. And also he demanded a workable action plan for Ukraine, for what victory in Ukraine looked like.
Have either of those happened yet?
No, neither of them has happened a bit. He hasn't gotten a penny of additional funding from the Biden administration 6 months later. Certainly there's no workable action plan for Ukrainian victory. But suddenly, Mike Johnson came out of meeting with intelligence chiefs last week, and suddenly he's a new convert. In fact, he declared the new axis of evil, as if the original one with George W. Bush is something to emulate and resurface in the modern day. I mean, we've had various iterations in the years since, but now this one straight out of Mike Johnson's mouth. Russia, China, and Iran. I think we've already seen that particular coordination before, but just to reiterate, and with like that, this bill was passed through. So I'm still left wondering, what were these games he was playing for the last 6 months then? I really don't understand it. I always said that it was going to happen. The Russian government always said that they were operating under the assumption that it was going to happen. But what were these domestic political games that he so completely gave up on? Now, obviously, the populist, the Trumpist minority, if you will, in the House, give them credit. They effectively took U.S. foreign policy hostage for half a year, right? They were always a minority. It was always just a matter of putting this aid up for a vote. And that was proven when the vote actually, occurred.
The vote was 311 yay, 112 nay, 1 present, and 7 not voting. The Republicans, yay 101, nay 112, present 1, not voting 4. Democrats, 210 yay, no nays, and 3 not voting. The Democrats across the board, and more than half the Republicans voted against it.
Yeah. So, I mean, the aid to Israel, there's a $95 billion package, $61 billion of it ostensibly going to Ukraine, right? The portion going to Israel, that was never in question. Anyway, it seems there is no ethnic cleansing or genocide or slaughter of civilians in Israel that would ever question U.S. military aid, the U.S. taxpayers going to fund these atrocities in Israel, in Palestine. And of course, more money for Taiwan at this point almost seems like an afterthought. But of course, it continues. Now, of this 61 billion that is ostensibly going to Ukraine, actually only 14 billion of it is going to direct military aid. The largest share of it, $24 billion, is going straight to U.S. military industrial complex to fund their renewal of their stocks and expansion of everything that they've handed out to Ukraine, presumably so they can just hand it out again. But that's on top of it.
In essence, this is an exchange. They've already spent that without the authorization by dumping the weapons, and now they're replenishing their own supplies.
Yes.
Outside of the regular military budget, by the way, this is an additional appropriation.
Now, $14 billion sounds like a lot of money, but it really isn't, right? One of the biggest items that the Kiev regime is screaming for, with their own air defense system having long been destroyed, and now all of the Western air defense systems that have been sent since also now destroyed or completely out of interceptor missiles, they're screaming for more. As the Kiev regime's foreign minister Kuleba put it, give us the blank Patriots. I mean, flat out like that. So, a demand. Now, a Patriot battery, consisting of 6 to 8 launchers, a radar, and a control unit, it's costs in excess of something like 1.2 to 1.3 billion dollars. The price is probably going up as demand is going up, and that's a lot of change. And there's only so many of them, and they take a long time to build. Meanwhile, an interceptor missile for it costs $3 to $4 million, and you fire 2 of those at every potential target to make sure that to increase your chance of hitting one. And the U.S. only makes 550 of them a year.
Whoa! So this is what we got, like a ghost version of this from Iran when they were firing cheap missiles at really expensive air defenses, and it cost like 100 times more.
1.3 billion in one night.
Right.
1.3 billion of interceptor missiles in one night. And again, the holdup isn't even the cost. The holdup is the ability to produce more. Certainly, both of these conflicts are not sustainable. One of them isn't, which is why the U.S., I believe, has been so keen to calm Israel down. Or to demand, because they simply can't afford another air defense war. They can't even accomplish the one that they're fighting. So
and this is the same problem we're having with the shells and all of that stuff too.
Yes, the exact same thing with the artillery shells. The U.S. hasn't sent artillery shells in months, supposedly. So they'll probably have a few months worth, but that's 28,000 shells a month that the U.S. is producing, maybe less than that. And the Kiev regime is going through, they would like to be able to fire at least 5,000 shells a day. Quite obviously, things aren't adding up there. The math isn't adding up. So as the Financial Times spoke to Ukrainian military commanders on condition of anonymity, of course, so they didn't get, killed or jailed or whatever. That this potentially could slow the Russian advance down, but it will not stop them. It will not change the course of the conflict. It will not allow the Kiev regime to achieve victory, however you define that. All it will end up doing is slow the Russians down and increase the costs for them, of course.
So then at the end of this horizon, we have a choice of one of two things. Either now we give up, or I guess one of 3 things, or we do it yet again, or change the nature of it so that it actually threatens Russia, in which case we've heard again from Lavrov today, I think, that if you threaten the foundation of our country, you're risking nuclear war. You're inviting it.
On top of that, we learn from Politico that Major General Pat Ryder, Pentagon spokesman, announced on Sunday that the U.S. will send more military troops to Kiev. These troops will be based supposedly out of the embassy and will be supporting logistics, monitoring, delivering of U.S. weapons, and conducting maintenance on U.S. weapons. You see, we've already gone from trainers and advisors now to logistics and maintenance, right? Yeah. We all have been here before. We see this slide into direct U.S. military intervention in the conflict. It is clearly down the road somewhere.
Unlike Vietnam and some of the other places, they're directly challenging Russia here. Russia is perfectly capable of taking that entire compound out in a heartbeat. And when that happens, we are at an escalation level that we've never faced before.
Yes.
Mark, thanks a lot. We'll speak with you again if we're all here next week. And thanks for your time and expertise.
Thanks for having me.
For KPFK, I'm Don DeBar.